The 2017 meeting of the Honolulu Police Commission is called to order. It's now 2 o'clock, and we are currently in the HPD Alapai Station Conference Room A. Do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. All right, Chief, you're up.
Okay. I'm gonna introduce Lisa Mann first, and she can get back to her job up at PSO transitioning out. But this is Lisa Mann. She is going to be our new assistant chief. She got promoted, and it'll be effective December 24th, and she will be going to the Administrative Bureau. I'm sorry, I keep saying administrative.
You do.
I don't know what
cringe
it,
every time
yeah,
you say
no,
that.
she cringes. I'm sorry. Investigative Bureau, which is our CID, which is our traffic division, and narcotics vice, and SIS is with you too. Yeah, so she has extensive experience in the criminal investigation division, so we're looking forward to great things from her. And would you like to say anything?
No, I'm just excited. As Chief Fowler said, she's putting together a new team, and I'm excited and proud to be part of it. As the Investigative Bureau Assistant Chief, I have a lot of experience in CID. It's kind of it's my comfort zone, so I'm very happy to be assigned to the Investigative Bureau. So I'm just looking forward to moving ahead.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to work. Thank you.
Well put. And we're still working on that SHOPO survey to get it to you folks. We're working on the redaction now. We needed to redact all the names off of the survey, and then actually when we took a look at it, it was a 15%. There was only 15% of the officers who responded. So we will be getting that. We're almost complete. We should be getting that to you folks within the week. Also, one of the things in the paper, just a little clarification. I know it's been one of the big topics is the Sunset Memorial, the graveyard that's out in Pearl City. The problem with that is not just the homeless, but it's private property, and we're having a very difficult time getting a hold of the owner of the property. They're not getting back to us, so it's difficult for us to do anything because it is private property at this point in time. So, but we're continuing to work on that. The other promotions too that took place today, and I do want to thank Commissioner Sheehan, Commissioner Gibson, and Commissioner Levinson, and Commissioner Sword for attending the promotion ceremony today. Really appreciate having you folks there. This Roddy Vanek is major. Roddy over here. So he's going to be our new major. He's going to be going down to Informational Technology Division. Greg Osborne, who's going to be the new major in District 2, Wahiwa. Ray, and the captains are Raynor Ikihara, and he's going to be assigned to HRD. Michael Kunishima, and Phil Johnson, Narco Vice, and Scott Gois. I know this one, training. So just a kind of update on that. Another update is on the body-worn cameras. Once again, thank you to Roddy. Unfortunately, even though he's getting promoted, it's going to stick to him like a backpack. So he's going to be taking it with him down to ITD to continue with the body-worn camera program. But the pilot did end on November 30th. We tested 2 vendors, and each one was approximately 4 weeks long. Currently, we're doing the closing report on the pilot so that we can take a look and see who is going to be the recommended vendor. And we should have the recommendation, the decision should be by the end of January. Just a little information, the average video length was about 16 minutes long. The longest one was 3.5 hours long, which was a felony arrest. And there was a total of 714 hours for just one of the vendors, the one that we did for the last 4 weeks. About half of the videos were just regular calls for service where there really wasn't any type of criminal complaint. 17% were for criminal cases, and 5% was for arrests. And as far as the officers' comments, one of the pervasive comments were that the officers reported seeing a change in the way the public interacted with them once they saw that they were being videotaped. So it's kind of interesting, yeah. So which is one of the expectations that the mainland also saw. So other than that, that's about all the updates I have. If you have any questions or
any questions, members?
Yeah, their demeanors changed from
being aggressive and
To
disorderly to
more
being
portion.
more respectful and
Oh,
yeah,
that's
knowing that
good.
they're on the camera. Yeah.
Thanks.
Was there anything that you thought was negative, or
With
do
the
you think it's a
cameras.
real positive experience, or?
I think overall it was positive. I think the most negative comment from the officers was the amount of time that it's going to take a lot more of the officers' time to actually, they have to like tag and label the videos. So that does take a lot of time to do. So it's going to take some time away from the road, and also time away from the road because they have to come in and they have to upload all the videos. And you can't just put like 10 of them in one charger or whatever, because it takes a while for it to upload. So that's probably some of the negatives that we're going to have to take a look at and work around.
Thank you.
Let me just ask, so who developed the parameters of what should be videotaped and what shouldn't, and what doesn't need to be videotaped?
The parameters were set by the Administrative Review Board, which is our deputies and the assistant chiefs when this pilot first started, which was on November 1st. So it would have been probably, I think they were actually working on it like for the year before that. They were sending up, but I'm going to ask Roddy
Sure.
if he can make a little bit more clarification.
So way prior to the start of the pilot, actually for approximately a year, the Administrative Review Board reviewed different policies from across the nation. They took the best practices not only from various departments, but also from the Department of Justice. They took all of those recommendations and developed a very specific policy. That policy was put into effect, and also all of our officers were trained on it prior to implementing the program. In the policy, it states when officers are required to turn on their cameras. It also even goes over retention. It goes over other things like public records requests. So all of those things were developed prior to the pilot and taken from definitely recommendations from DOJ, IACP, major city chiefs. So that's how we developed our policy.
So if there's a need to cut costs or cut the amount of time or cut the number of cases that we videotape, the number of encounters, I guess we videotape, is the ARB going to be is that the group that takes a look at pruning the program?
That's correct. So anytime there's any change to policy or recommendations, we have a process in place where a recommendation is made. The Administrative Review Board would review those recommendations and then make a decision based on the recommendations made. Recommendations are usually based off of the division responsible for the program. So in this case, it would be actually May ITD. And those recommendations are based on a number of different things. They could be based on feedback that we get from our officers, policy changes, or best practice changes from across the nation.
Sure.
As we move forward and as the technology changes and improves, obviously we have to take a look at our policies, and not only that policy, but policies in general. Body cameras, even though it's very specific, isn't isolated. It touches many of our other different policies.
Sure.
So because we're bringing it new into the department, part of the process is to take a look at all of our policies and see how body cameras affects those as well.
Unless I'm wrong, I think the policy governing the use of body cameras has been circulated to the commission.
That's correct.
And it enumerates all of the do's and don'ts and parameters that you've outlined.
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks.
Actually, I'd love to see a copy of
Yeah, I was
of
just going to
that,
say,
just
I
to
know we
educate
received-
myself.
We received the policy, which about a year, was it?
new.
Not quite a year
no,
ago?
Yes.
A number of months.
Yeah, it was months ago,
So
so
I think
can you?
recently I shared the policy with.
Yeah, I think it's like
Dan.
two
I'm
meetings
used,
ago.
I haven't
I
seen
can send
it.
it again.
Oh, okay, Dan, can you get copies for
Yeah.
the new commission?
Well, I might mention that contained within our police commissioner's manual
Right.
is a great list of policies. It isn't all inclusive.
Okay.
And I don't think the manual itself has been revised for a long time. What I've been doing is collating new policies, or at least policies that we're receiving for the first time, into that manual. But I think perhaps this next year we might want to use this as an opportunity for a substantial update and revision of the manual.
But aren't all the policies online?
There you go. I was about to say that. So
Is
another
it,
very
it's
good
online,
resource.
right? Then don't give,
Another very
just
good
tell me where to
resource is
go.
our HPD internet site, and
Right.
when you go on
Okay.
there, it's a pretty prominent button called Policies. Click
Okay.
on it. It's actually searchable. If you type in body
I
camera or
get-
anything you're interested in,
I get that.
all of our policies.
Thank
will-
you.
There are a lot of them.
There are,
I
s-
know,
Yeah,
there are,
it's pretty thick.
and there's
Well,
some
I'll
that are
find-
redacted, so you won't
online
get the
is
whole
easier to
policy.
search.
If it's on the internet, some of them are redacted. Some portions of the policy are redacted, so you won't be able to get the
Just
full
get it.
policy.
Is the body cameras one redacted?
To my knowledge, it's not.
No,
Okay, so just go online. I'll show you how.
Go online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions for the chief? Hey, thanks, Ron. Okay, moving on, need approval for minutes for the open session, October 4, 18, and 23rd. Commissioner Sheehan?
Well, Chair, the problem with this that we discussed at the last meeting was that, I think this is what we discussed at the last meeting, was that with regard to October 4, you were present.
23rd.
I beg your
I think it was the
pardon?
23rd, I think was,
Did you just ask for approval of the minutes of the open sessions of October 4, 18, 23, and November 15?
no, and the 23rd.
Yeah,
4, 18, and 23rd.
And
And November
15.
15th, yes, sorry.
Okay, so going in chronological order, the problem was that the people who were present for October 4 were Sword, Thompson, Flores, Levinson, Sheehan. Our new commissioners were not present. And so what was proposed by Corp Counsel was that we have a session where we have to inform Commissioners Gibson and Chang what happened at that meeting, and
Correct.
only then can we vote.
Right.
So go ahead. Tell them what was at the meeting.
What's that?
So you have to tell them what happened
Oh.
at the meeting, so that they
Okay,
can now.
Just debrief us.
Just debrief you. Okay, I gotta, I guess at the meeting of the.
I have the minutes.
Well, you have the minutes? I'm sorry, if I
Okay,
grabbed the
so-
wrong one.
Right,
My
so-
apologies, I
No,
grabbed
no,
the-
no,
I
no,
grabbed
no
the
problem.
wrong one.
So with your permission then.
Yeah, go for it.
And then if other commissioners, as I maybe spark your memory, please jump in and make corrections, because I'm going from the minutes, but also my own memory, because this helps my memory. On October 4, Acting Deputy Chief William Axt was present because Acting Chief Okimoto was not in attendance. He gave his report. He talked about Coffee with a Cop and Keiki and Kapuna ID. He talked about HPD participating in a Refresh, Rejuvenate, and Reset, a senior wellness fair, and a Take Back initiative sponsored by the DEA, State Attorney General, etc. He talked about traffic statistics, that there have been 33 fatalities to date compared to 41 in 2016. He said that they were going to continue their speed enforcement. He talked about speeding citations. The numbers in our minutes, I assume, are accurate. He indicated that the pilot for the body-worn cameras was moving forward, that one of the vendors had dropped out, but that they were working on it. There were some logistical hurdles. The body-worn camera team is on schedule to issue the cameras and provide final training to officers November 6th. Vice Chair Thompson wanted to know what were the reasons for one of the companies dropping out. They were unable to support the equipment. I had asked about the NCIC audit that was in our commissioner mail. And Acting Deputy Chief Axe said that the audit he was familiar with is HPD currently making sure those who have access are authorized and removing those persons who have left HPD. There was a vote for approval of the minutes. It was unanimous. There was public testimony by a number of people. Oh, this was right at the beginning of people wanting to testify on behalf of or against candidates for the next chief of police. There was Ms. Marjorie Morgan, who testified in favor of Mr. Kendrow. There was Mr. Alex Garcia, who said we should do a good job. There was a Mr. Kawamoto, who didn't want a candidate in particular, but he was very worried about the concern for undocumented immigrants and their role in community safety, and he wanted to talk about sanctuary cities. This is a Ms. Nancy Botello of Special Olympics. She testified on behalf of Mr. Kendrow. Ms. Renee Manfredi testified on behalf of, also of the Special Olympics Board of Directors, also testified on behalf of Mr. Kendrow. Ms. Noelani Nalui offered support in favor of Mr. Kendrow. Mr. Antonio Williams spoke on behalf of Mr. Kendrow. In my mind, these minutes are all correct. And you have copies of those, I think. Ms. McAmey testified on behalf of, in support of Mr. Kendrow. Mr. Barry Tong provided testimony in favor of Ms. Susan Ballard. Howard Zussman spoke on behalf of Mr. Kevin Lima. Mr. Gary Dvorak testified on behalf of Mr. Ayu. Ms. Nancy Creedman said we should do a good job. Ms. Like testified on behalf of Susan Ballard. And that was all the testimony we heard that day. There was new business where Commissioner Levinson reported on action that was taken. That's contained in the minutes. That appears to be accurate to me. There was unfinished business about the selection process for the next chief of police. Executive Officer Lawrence explained how the process was going to go, how long we were going to take. That's when we had the conversation about how much time we needed, and Commissioner Flores said he thought 1 hour was enough. I pointed out that depositions are frequently 8 hours, and we settled on 90 minutes. And then, Commissioner Levinson agreed it's difficult to set an arbitrary time. We settled on about 90 minutes. We talked more about the selection process. Oh, and because we asked for more time, we added a third day of interviewing as opposed to just 2 days. Executive Officer Lawrence informed us that we should start scripting questions and submit those. So we did start then. And that the Department of Human Resources was going to help us with the interview process. And then we moved to the topic of Honolulu Police Commission Rule 10 and Rule 11, as one does. And you informed us, Commissioner Levinson, that you and Corporation Counsel Donald Young have not reached an agreement. You explained the process, what you had done, and then you made and then you presented your own proposal to change the rule. You made a motion that it be substituted for what is currently on the table for rulemaking, and the process moved forward. I seconded the motion. So we began the process of changing Rules 10 and 11. And then Executive Officer Lawrence explained of our complaints and that we had received 64 complaints to date compared to 67 in 2016, reported where we were with that. I noted that Commissioner Levinson and Vice Chair Thompson, since they were both actors, HPD was seeking volunteer actors to assist in the 186 recruit class field exercises, and perhaps they should volunteer. And then we entered executive session. That's my memory of October 4.
It's really good memory, Sean.
So with that summary, I would now move to approve the minutes of the October 4 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any more further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
That was
October
Okay, now
18th was mercifully much shorter. It was Chief Okimoto. Oh no, it wasn't much shorter. Chief Okimoto again gave his chief of police report about community policing teams and take back initiative. Talked about traffic fatalities again. I asked if there were any response to the arrests made over the weekend, and he said that HPD will continue to cooperate with the FBI when asked. We all thanked Acting Chief Okimoto for his service. In terms of approval of the minutes, we asked for some clarifications, and the minutes were amended to include Commissioner 11th. Anyway,
Yeah.
Commissioner Levinson also requested an amendment to the minutes, and that page floor reflect the comment by Sergeant Ma'afala using the term blue flu, as he personally feels the statement is absurd, and it was included by unanimous vote. Public testimony, there was none. New business was our complaints, the actions that we took on the complaints. They're accurate as appears in the minutes. Unfinished business was, actually we deferred the continuing conversation on rules 10 and 11. We agreed to that by unanimous motion. Executive Officer Lawrence, again, reported on how many complaints we'd received, and he asked us if we were willing to consider having Olelo cover our commission meetings. We gave him the green light to talk to Olelo, and then we entered executive session. And that's what happened October 18th, according to my memory. So I would move to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second, me.
Second, been made in second. Any
Second.
discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so October
That's
18 was,
October, yeah.
23rd, right?
The 23rd,
23rd.
you just did the 18th.
I just did the 18th. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm looking at,
23rd.
23rd, no.
Because the 18th carried on into the 23rd.
Yeah, it was a
Yes.
continuation of the
oh,
meeting.
you're right, we have 2 minutes for the 18th.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you something. Then, if we could include in the minutes of the regular meeting, October 18, I forgot that. And so we may have to rescind that vote, because I forgot to mention that at our next October 18 meeting, Executive Officer Lawrence provided us with a copy of the agenda for the Public Health, Safety, and Welfare Committee special meeting, which included the nomination of of Ms. Karen Chang and Gerard Gibson. And we asked when you were going to be on board, and we were questioning basically, should we wait? Can they come on board really quick so they could participate in the vote, or no? So, and so we just decided to go ahead. So with that friendly amendment, that's actually the minutes of October 18. That's actually what happened on the October 18 meeting. So could we redo that last vote?
Okay.
So I'd
So
move to.
with the amendment that was just put in.
Thank you.
Been moved in second. Again, all those
Second.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so
thank
lastly
you.
then, no, not lastly.
Yes,
Almost
23rd was a
lastly.
continuation of the 18th.
No, yeah, so October 23rd, our regular meeting was very short. It was a motion to enter the executive session, because that's when we were picking the chief. And that was all that happened,
Yeah.
right? So I moved to accept the minutes of the regular meeting, October 23rd, 2017.
Continuation
So
of the
moved.
18th to the 23rd
Yeah.
meeting. It's been made in second. Any
Second.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
And
then,
November 15th, I think everybody has that.
was everybody here for that?
We were here.
Yeah, they were here for
Great,
that.
they were here
We
for that.
were here.
Okay. So I don't have to.
Thank you,
We were
Commissioner
here.
Sheehan.
So, the only thing I wanted to make a couple of changes to the minutes, because I thought it was really important. And it wasn't like a typographical error or anything, but this was the meeting where Corp Counsel Donna Leong appeared to discuss Rule 11. And on page 15,
Wait, now, hold on.
Yeah.
I don't want to get my October one out of order.
yeah, I know.
Did you, mark it on your minutes?
Yeah, I have it posted, but
Yeah.
it's from memory, so.
I can take it, like that.
So what I would like to see included is on page 15, because I thought it really encapsulated the error in Corp Counsel Leong's thinking when she said something to the words to the effect of, "Sue, do you mean to tell me that if officers make an arrest and then wham, 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 brutalize that person,
Okay.
then that's supposed to be in the performance of his duty?" And I said, yes. And then that was picked up later on by page 15, where Commissioner Levinson was explaining that the beating the tar out of a suspect after he's been arrested, because the officer is authorized to make arrests, is being sued for an act under the performance of his duty as a police officer, even though the conduct is unlawful. I would like to have Donna Leong's comments. I would like to have that included in the minutes.
wham.
The wham, wham,
Wham.
wham part.
Okay.
If we could, because you tape it, right? You tape
Yeah,
the
yeah,
meetings.
yeah, okay.
So if that could be included, I thought it was just a very important point because to me, it crystallized the error in her thinking. So with that friendly amendment, I would move to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of November 15th.
It's been moved.
Second with a comment,
Oh,
Sure.
if that's appropriate, or should I save it for discussion?
I'll save it for discussion.
Second.
Okay, we made it second, now for discussion.
Go ahead.
Just a general observation. The interchange that Commissioner Sheehan has just described involving the commission and CORE in the persons of Corp Counsel Donna Leong and Deputy Corp Counsel Dwayne Pang was quite extensive. And I think it would have been virtually impossible to capture everything that was said in minutes. That Erin got as much as she got, I think, is remarkable. As I read the minutes, there were numerous revisions or tweaking that I could have or could be suggesting now. I decided that there really wasn't much utility in it, but I'm glad that you've requested the change that you have. I'd like us to have a general understanding that the discussion was detailed, lengthy, and relatively complicated, and not everything can be and is adequately reflected in the minutes, but that's life.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I mean, yeah, for the record, Erin does an excellent job compiling and producing the minutes. Thank you. And I agree, you can't get everything down, but for me, personally, that moment when I thought she so clearly had it wrong, that I thought, let's put that in the minutes. If someone wants to review our minutes at a later date, it's crystal clear what Corp Counsel is thinking at this moment, and why we're having this difficulty in terms of Rules 10 and 11.
I quite agree.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Okay, and again, thank you, Commissioner Sheehan, for
Yeah, you're
that. Okay, public testimony. Do you have any public testimony?
No public testimony.
No public testimony?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business. Mr. Lawrence.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and speaking of Rule 10.11, just want to share that the public hearing is still scheduled for January 3.
Time and location?
Time probably about 3 o'clock here in this room as a part of our regular
Okay.
meeting.
Although I think I know the answer to the question, has there been any written testimony submitted yet?
No.
Oh. Okay.
How many commissioners do we anticipate being present on the 3rd? Just 4 of us?
Oh, I'm here. I mean, you.
We're up 5.
I think we're all here.
1, 2,
3, 4, 5.
I'm here.
5. Okay,
Yeah.
I might not be here.
Okay.
I might
Please be here.
Yeah.
I might not be here. I honestly, that's why I'm bringing it up. I have a deposition, 2 depositions in California. I might be leaving on the 3rd, unless I can get a red eye. But so if we have to push it back to the next meeting, I have one in San Francisco, one in Sacramento.
I don't visiting all the time.
Not.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully we're all here for that meeting.
I mean,
Well, at least
we-
we have 4 at the meeting. I don't anticipate any
If it,
issues.
yeah.
Okay.
Or if we were
Well,
open to changing the time of a meeting, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock?
Notice has gone out.
Yeah, notice has
Yeah.
gone out.
Too
It's a
bad.
public type hearing that we're gonna stick to
see.
the schedule, so sorry
Okay.
about that. Okay, discussion of performance goals and evaluation. On the chief, everybody got a copy?
Yes.
Yes, so just kind of took what you folks had given. Aaron had sent me previously, and I would thank Deputy Chief McCarthy for sort of just reworking this and reformatting it and taking and breaking it down. It's a little bit easier to read, and it's still. It's still, there's a lot of, like generalities and stuff, but I think it would be my responsibility at that point to explain or how I met these particular goals inside this, inside the performance appraisal for this particular document. What I did do is there's an attachment on the back, and forgive me, I'm not that good at creating documents and strategic plans and things like that. So I just took the 6 areas that we wanted to concentrate on and put down what I felt were measurable items within each of those 6 headings that we wanted to touch on in this administration. And obviously, as the years go by, or even within the year, we'll remain flexible, because there are going to be other things that are going to be coming up that might take priority, and then obviously we'll have to change it. But the attachment kind of spells out a lot of the major goals that we wanted to do that would line up with the majority of the general headings from the performance appraisal evaluation that is the initial attachment, or the initial document.
Any questions on the chief? Commissioners, usually in the past, the description on the scope of the chief's responsibility and job usually is done in a format that similar to this, but it kind of outlines everything that you do, and then that was transferred over to a evaluation, or the sheet that we use every year. You want to have the same format? Anybody have any ideas on how you want to structure what the chief has proposed?
Well, if I may, what I really like about the list, Chief, is that you've provided us is a list of metrics that are objective and that are measurable, as you say. As you can tell from the metrics that have been used by the Honolulu Police Department, they're not objective. They are objective, but they are subjective. It's in terms of whether someone feels that someone's effective or competent or a good leader or a good manager, etc. I think your list is impressive, and I don't know how to marry the two. I mean,
that was my problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think that, and also because clearly this is your list. This is what your goals. This is what you want to accomplish, and it won't necessarily be the same next year or in 5 years, and it won't necessarily be the same for another chief. Right. So, I think that but I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. We have our subjective standards, which are not bad. They're not. I mean, I'm not saying that the form that we used in the past was terrible. But what I like was that you, on your own, came up with written, measurable metrics that we can hold you to. And maybe that's what we should be including in our chief of police performance evaluation, is to require anybody who wants to be the chief of police to do exactly what you just did and provide us with, a list of measurable, objective goals or metrics, and a timeline within which, I mean, obviously we're not asking you for a timeline today, but that person anticipates that these things could be accomplished. And then, and in that way we could marry the two together. your list wouldn't become part of our evaluation, but the requirement that any chief of police provide us with a list like this would. Yeah? Does that
I
make
saw,
sense?
I saw one in the manual, I think it was in the manual, the last.
Yeah, that was done.
It wasn't very.
That
I
was
didn't-
done about 7 years
Yeah,
ago
I
or
didn't
something.
think it was very good. This one is much better.
This
Yeah.
is-
And as you point out,
Well-
Commissioner Sheen, this is a lot more metric oriented, which I'm used to. And I
Right.
think is much better rather than having subjective.
Well, my
measurements.
question actually is how, you brought up the point about marrying the two together. You know, this and how we do our form, what do we do, what do we want to do?
I think this is really very good because
Absolutely.
I don't know how important it is to marry this with the job description. Job description designed for,
Well,
maybe
no,
I
no.
did not understand you.
No, what I'm
'Cause-
talking about is how we take this and put it in a form that we can, when we start evaluating, you know, we have 1 to 5 or something like that. I mean, based on what the chief has here. That's what I'm saying, is that, you know, how do you marry the two? Do we marry the two?
Well, that kind of leads
That's
into
easy.
a question that I had. I like, I mean, in a way, the two are already married in the document. In other words, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you are holding the document out as first a proposed job description, broken down into particular categories well, in the categories and subcategories. On the one hand, and then secondly, you formatted it as a job description. I mean, as an evaluation form, inviting or by which the commission can assess the degree to which you have lived up to the or performed in accordance with the job description that you've created. I like that. Performance scale is easy enough. I mean, if it's simply a number, 1 to 5,
That's easy.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me the comment portion is probably more important. You know, why our assessment is what it is, and I suppose that's where my question enters in. I have the sense, having only been on the commission a little over a year myself, that in the past it has not been an easy task for the commissioners to know how to evaluate the chief. I gather that in the past it's consisted of, well, how's it going? And the chief says everything's great, and so the commission says, well, that's just fine. And then the performance evaluation reflects that process. I think we all want to see a more informed commission with respect to our evaluation function, that being a very important one. So I'm interested in any thoughts that you may have as to how we can get up to speed so that we can evaluate you in a meaningful way. And then, as an aside, I did have a thought as to one of your subheadings, and a question perhaps. Under the general category managerial, which is the second one, the third bullet point, it seemed to me that that would be an appropriate place to include an advocacy function that you might have. My sense is that it's not inappropriate for the chief to have that responsibility vis-a-vis the funder, which I take it is substantially the city council. So that in addition to planning, coordinating, delegating, directing through subordinates, departmental functions and activities to meet the department's objectives and goals. And I inserted technology in that list too. Within the context of available existing financial resources, the idea was that part of your responsibility, it seems to me, is to advocate for appropriate financial resources when they aren't currently available, when the department has particular objectives that it wants to meet that cost money, and for which there has been nothing budgeted. Obviously, one has to ask for that.
Okay.
Technology has a lot to do with it.
Be careful with that, because we can't ask for money.
You can't
And
ask
that's
for
my
No, we cannot. I can go to the city council and ask for money, but I cannot go outside and ask for anybody to support anything with the Honolulu Police Department. That's against the ethics of the Honolulu.
Yeah, I was
City
thinking
Council.
more in terms
internal.
of you
The city
and
council.
the city council.
Oh, okay, yeah, that
When
I
it
can do.
comes
Yeah, that I
time
can
to
do.
review
Yeah.
the department's
Yeah.
budget.
Okay.
I would assume
Okay.
that among other resources, the city council looks to you for input, at least
Yes.
aspirationally.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would seem to me then that advocacy for what you think the department needs is an appropriate function.
Yeah, and you folks, the budget, we'll be presenting the budget to you folks probably within, how long?
Yeah, we're supposed to be.
Yeah, around January, February, and then we'll let you know at that time, what they're recommending and what, what our needs are, and obviously we do go back and forth, but that is coming up, yeah. But you're right, because anytime there's a need, and case in point is with the homeless that we're currently doing, the constant resources that are being moved all around, we're seeing if we keep pulling resources to address that particular issue, just to be totally honest, that the other services are suffering. So our point is that if we're going to continue doing this, then it's going to have to be on overtime, because we don't have the resources to keep pulling the resources from our patrol to go address and the enforcement of all the homeless issues that we have. So
that when you referred to financial resources provided at the end,
right.
I just penned in as a trial balloon for myself, and ideally beneficial. In other words, we know what we have,
right,
and we may have some thoughts as to what is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it, the idea is to advocate for what's ideal.
Yeah, no problem.
And included, I guess, in the advocacy piece of it is not only asking for money where it's needed, but it seems that the police department needs to take its place at the table in discussing some of our social concerns. HPD, in my mind, has to lead the conversation, or at least be a very important part of the conversation in structuring our state policies with the legislature, with the city council, et cetera. And for years, everyone's used the police department as the de facto social workers, of the state. And it's time, and other entities, nonprofits, et cetera, city agencies have tried to step up, but it doesn't appear to be working. And so my fear is that we just go back to criminalizing everything, because after all, the police can just take care of it, just arrest everybody, and that clearly doesn't work. And so in terms of advocacy, I could see HPD, and in particular under your leadership, providing policy guidance to state entities, the legislature, city council, forums, regarding social issues. I think that's really, really important. I haven't really heard that in the past, and I think it's vitally important.
Yeah, and we're currently working as actually member of a lot of the different homeless subcommittees. Unfortunately, the thinking is still pass more laws to address those social issues.
Just arrest people.
Yeah.
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 Okay, well, let's stick with the subject matter on hand, which is how do we want to approach the chiefs on
And
this evaluation? I agree
one
it's
to
good.
Okay. It's
You know,
really
so
good, yeah.
how do we,
Well, here's
what,
my,
we need to decide as a commission what we're going to, how we're
is
going
I'm,
to
you know, and just a thought is, when it comes down here, the performance scale, we're not talking about 1 to 5. I think the performance scale we're looking at is that, okay, let's just stick with managerial. So you've got 4 bullet points. So the performance scale would be 3 out of 4, or 2 out of 4, or 1 out of 4, or 4 out of 4. So in other words, did you, you know, under my leadership, did we address, I mean, maybe not 100% of these concerns, but did we address some, you know, some of these concerns under each of these categories, or did we just not, you know, did we not address them at all?
Rather than a point scale.
Right, correct. Instead of 1 to 5. So, I mean, we can do it. You know, either way is fine. But that's the way this was the performance scale. That was what it was based on. Was, you know, how many of these areas did we, you know, I mean, and not necessarily 100% complete, because I think that would be pretty unrealistic in 1 year period of time. But, you know. Try to address or have a plan for or something along that line. And I think as far as marrying the back list, and I agree with the commissioners that you know I went back and forth on this. Okay, well, how can I insert that in this initial document? But what I was thinking is that, okay, you know, as we go along, say for example, I give say for body-worn cameras, I give you whatever the chief's report is, and I can say, and this is addressing the leadership issue on, let's say, maintains positive relationships with other law enforcement or whatever, and I can say just like number 5 under leadership, we've met with the FBI, we've met with the head of the NAACP, you know, all these different community leaders to address that particular bullet point. I don't.
The one thing I did notice, if I may, the way that this model was designed, it looks like you can use it for trickle-down effect as well with your team members.
Right, correct.
You can use the whole thing, which makes perfect sense to me. That's the way it should be, with the same categories. And
Because the attachment really is your action plan.
Right, yeah.
And that's actionable. These are the action plan. Actually, when you look at the performance, when we look at this, I would look at this and see, did we accomplish this or not? These are the list of actions, more managerial, you know, tactics. And in the front was more of the CEO leadership skills that's required to run the police department. And if there is a way, I don't know, I have to really think about, to keep it simple. I mean, it's really hard to do this kind scientifically. You know, usually it's meet or did not meet, exceed goals. Usually, for us, usually in the private sector is really 3. There's no 1 to 4 or 1 to 5.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
just,
See, once you do 1 to 5, it's almost like try to make it a science, and it's not a science. So
well, so if I can sum up what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing from the commissioners is that under managerial evaluation, what we're suggesting is that we include either include within a bullet point that's already there or create a new one that the chief is required to provide at least annually an action plan, i.e. a list of objectively measurable metrics.
Right here.
That would be something that a good manager would do. Under leadership, we would include a language either in a bullet point or create a new one that the chief advocates for the needs of the department when necessary and advocates
these are actions.
Advocates to, let's see, and provides, a second bullet point would be, under leadership, would be provides policy guidance to state entities regarding social concerns, We've mentioned homelessness. There's also a huge interest in sanctuary cities, in climate change. I mean, there's lots of issues out there, and I think it's important that HPD has a voice. The last thing I want to, that's my proposal in terms of how we change our evaluation standards. But I also want to mention, just in terms of suggestions, or just in thinking out loud, when I came on board and Chief Kealoha was here, one of the ways that I was evaluating his performance as chief of police was by reading the newspaper and watching the TV news and reading court filings. And what I saw was an accumulation of lawsuits and of indictments and examples of apparent poor policing. And I also saw a failure of a lack of candor with the former chief. So I don't know how to include the things that distressed me with that I never really got to talk about with him, with Chief Kealoha in the Chief of Police performance evaluation, because he left before we got to have a conversation about it.
So your suggestion is?
Just
well,
do it as is.
It sounds like you had a
I wouldn't change
suggestion
it.
there on adding something in there. Because I agree, this is really good, Chief. I'm just trying to get a feel of the commission on how you want to do it, whether you want to do it on a scale, or as was suggested, you know, whether the chief
Either way.
met in the case of managerials, the 5 points now that is in there. How do you guys want to handle that?
I think, yeah, she set it up with the points.
Okay.
With the, you know, for instance, leadership has 5 points under it. Did she perform all those 5 points, address all those 5 points?
I'm fine either way.
What's in there and what's not?
Excuse me, there are two approaches that have been identified. I mean, one is what the chief is talking about, that is to say, with respect to leadership, there are 5 bullet points, okay? As to how many of them are we satisfied, in effect?
right.
And if we're
That's
satisfied
fine.
with all, that's a 5. If we're satisfied with
4.
all but 1, that's a 4.
Yeah, there's a 4.
But which one? I mean, how is that reflected in the number? That seems a little imprecise to me. It makes more sense to me to evaluate each item, and if it's as simple as what I think the commission has done in the past, and what I'm hearing from Commissioner Chang, meets expectations, exceeds expectations,
Or do not meet.
does not meet
Does
expectations.
not meet.
As
It's
opposed
really simple.
to a number?
And as
Yeah.
opposed to a number,
Yeah. To a
then
number.
it makes more sense to me to
That's fine,
evaluate
yeah.
each item.
Yeah.
Fine.
Does not meet, exceed expectations.
So I agree with-
Address every one.
Yeah,
So I
address
agree with-
everyone.
I agree with that, but then do we also then amend our Chief of Police performance evaluation to include the points brought up today about requiring the chief to provide an action plan with measurable objectives or metrics, and then the advocacy piece and the
You could add
policy
that.
guidance piece? I mean, or do we feel we don't need that, that's something that is already included in terms of is an effective, competent, and motivated leader? Is that included in there? I mean,
I don't know.
Actually, Chief,
Go ahead.
to your point, you could just add that, right? There are,
Yeah.
what she just, you
Yeah,
know.
what Commissioner Sheehan is saying is that
just
whether
said.
we should include what was
Yeah,
suggested.
I mean,
An action.
if you.
In other words,
There should be
add on
there
to
should
what
be a
the
specific
chief-
action plan. What are you
Yeah.
going to be
For-
doing? And
for that.
This one I attached is not just for this year, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
would-
this is a lot.
Believe me, if I
mean,
could do all this, you
if
could
you
call
can
me
do all of
the
that,
high supreme leader, you
This
know.
is a very ambitious
Take a while.
action plan. But,
I-
Well,
Yeah.
how about this as a...
One at a time, go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
All right, go ahead.
How about this as a proposal then? For this year, we keep our Chief of Police performance evaluation form the same. We rate Chief Ballard on didn't meet, met, exceeds, and however, we add a section
Yeah.
on her action plan. If we don't expect you to do everything.
Thank you.
And it's a
So-
very extensive list, but
How much of that?
there's a separate section where we look at her action plan. We examine what's been accomplished, what the roadblocks have been, and we rate her accordingly.
Yeah.
Okay, one more, based on what Commissioner Levinson said, we do exceeds,
Well,
does it exceed
I
on
think
each,
that's-
Do not
on
meet.
each of the
Right,
thing?
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that works for
That
me.
sounds-
Yes,
that
I think
works.
that's fine, because much of this
Okay.
is a conversation, it's a dialogue, it's really a feedback mechanism to improve
Yeah.
her effectiveness as a leader of the police department, you know, so it
Okay.
requires conversation. It's not we are here judging you, my
So-
goodness, so,
And this should be an action plan.
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
And much of her attachment to me reads almost, it's already an action plan, but you could
Yeah, yeah.
really just, you know,
So, Commissioner Sheehan, we're gonna add the social concerns on the leadership side, is that what you're suggesting also? Or, you know, the issue of,
The advocacy.
Advocacy.
Yeah,
just add
yeah.
it somewhere, add it where in,
yeah, I don't see any other place other than leadership that.
It would be in leadership, and
Yeah.
if this body considers those items, those that we talked about today, about advocacy for the needs of the department and providing policy guidance in,
Although I should say
Seeks
that
out and
it-
encourage-
it's
Wait, hold on,
currently,
hold on,
it's currently in the managerial.
Yeah, let her finish. Go ahead.
category.
Finish
Okay.
up.
I was thinking it actually could be subsumed in seeks out and encourages suggestions, participation, and collaboration to achieve and improve the goals and objectives of the department. That arguably could be in there.
Part of that.
Yeah, I mean, so, I guess what I'm saying is, those are things that I would look at
You
in
just-
that, under that bullet point.
Yeah,
So we
that's
don't need, no.
easy, just
So
add
to
it.
answer your question, Chair, I don't think we need to change our form and spell that out. It seems to be within there, but the only thing I think should be changed on the form is an inclusion of requirement of an action plan.
The goals.
And then the action plan, and we can evaluate, have we made any progress, and it's meets, doesn't meet, exceeds, that's it.
Since it's kind of, as you say, it's year to year, year to
Yeah,
year.
and every, I mean,
Yeah.
you can start out with this priority, and we all
Yeah,
know that
every year
next
brings
week
a
it could
different
be
problem.
It could be a second, yeah, exactly.
Every
So I
brings a
mean,
different-
yeah,
Okay.
we just
but I
be
think it's
flexible.
really
and- yeah.
a very good plan as a
Yeah.
start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll, so everybody's comfortable with going
Yes.
with that, then
Mhm.
we'll move to approve. And then we'll set it up and send it out to everyone before the next meeting, and then we'll all get it
Why don't we
done.
move to have Executive Officer Lawrence
Yeah.
Draft it up
Yeah.
and then present it at the next meeting?
And that's what I was going to
Great.
suggest, is that he does the
Merry
the
Christmas.
staff the staff does that,
We're
and
not
then
meeting
we'll
until January 3rd.
Did I send you
Just
the word
right,
file,
give
or
us-
Adobe
and
file?
we'll have the
Something
final
more
we'll
tangible
have the
to
final
look at.
documents on the next meeting, so we can get that done for the chief.
So you-
Okay.
so you need a
So
motion.
we made a motion.
I'll make a motion to have Executive Officer Lawrence redraft our Police Commission Chief of Police Performance Evaluation form to include a section on, that requires a chief to provide at least annually an action plan that is a list of objectively measurable metrics. I don't know if that's the right language, moving forward. I can work with you on that, Dan.
We get the idea.
Yeah, that, and then present it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll-
And we can all sign it and everything at the next.
And secondly,
Yeah.
that to include on our form, the list that's provided by whichever chief it is.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and second. Any further
Second.
discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good, got that done.
I'm like, it's good, discussion.
Okay, oh, I lost my paper.
And real quick, just a couple of things now that I've thought about it. Just to give you, let you know, I'm going to be taking a couple of days vacation at the end of the year, the 28th and 29th, and also January 2nd and 3rd. But if you folks are meeting on the 3rd, I will come in for the commission meeting.
Are you allowed to take vacation?
I'm sorry?
Are you allowed to take vacation?
I don't think so. Every time I've had a vacation day, I've had to come in and do something for at least 4 hours. I think one day I took a vacation, I finally got home at 2:30 in the afternoon, but, yeah, and then,
Yeah. I know, I was about to say that.
Yeah, no, it's like welcome to the real world, I guess. And then also got the Major City Chiefs Conference on January 23rd through the 27th, and that's going to be in Long Beach. And then I'll be going to Washington, D.C., February 3rd through the 8th to meet with all of the senators, representatives, to meet with the contingent, the Hawaii contingent over there, talk with them about funding, some of the issues involving with HPD, and going to be going over there with the other police chiefs of the other islands as well. So just to give you folks a heads up on that. And then while I'm out of town, Deputy Chief McCarthy will be acting chief in my place, and God forbid if something happens to him, then which we hope not. Also, too, just to let you folks know that there will be in Honolulu Magazine did an article. Robbie Dingman came out with it initially. I think it was on the internet, but it should be in the January edition of Honolulu Magazine about my selection as chief, and an interview. Yesterday we did a with the Discovery Channel. What was the name of the?
It's a cold case.
Yeah, it was on the cold case. So I'm not sure when that's going to be aired. Okay. Regarding the serial murders that were occurred in Honolulu from 85 to 86. And then also tomorrow be doing an interview with the Midweek magazine, and
January 3rd.
Oh, that's for, but Midweek's January 3rd, it's not tomorrow.
It's for the January 3rd.
Oh, for the January 3rd edition, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just heard January 3rd interview, your vacation.
I know, I was like, oh. Well, there goes that day. So, yeah, so just to let you know that those will be coming out, so if you see them, you know.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Sheehan on the pig.
Oh, so where we
Sure.
left it last time was Commissioners Chang and Gibson were going to take a look at the proposed survey, and some of the obstacles facing us were, was it worth our time because of the anticipated low response rate? Were the questions worthwhile? Commissioner Levinson and I were a bit neutral on it. We didn't feel that the survey was as pressing, but there was some conversation about establishing a baseline. So we tabled it, we put it on the next meeting's agenda so that Commissioners Gibson and Chang could weigh in on it.
Yeah, I just gave to the chief today a copy of one that was recently taken by us, and I just redacted our information. Hilton, I'm sorry, us. And so she is going to take a look at it. I should have brought a copy for everybody. I apologize, I did not, but I will do that at the next meeting. But it's more of a corporate survey, and I wanted to see what she thought about it. She's going to take a look at it sometime over the next few weeks, and when we reconvene again, we'll talk about it again.
Is this a yes/no thing, or 1 to 5?
Say again?
Is this a yes/no questionnaire, or 1 to 5?
1 to 5.
Yeah, this is a 1 to 10 actually.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So you're either 80% there, 50% there. Yeah. But it's very detailed.
Very.
Actually, as you can see, there's probably about 100 questions. Maybe we can pass the one around that you have there.
And this is done online, right, Jerry?
Yeah, this is all done online, and it's and it pertains to each division, which is why I thought it might be important
have to sign their name,
for the chief to take
Just
a look
division,
at it as well.
yeah.
And I thought it was very good.
It is good.
But again, it's a corporate one, so we want to take a look and see how we
Take a
can
look at
tweak it a little bit if she feels it's appropriate. And I think it's also something that shouldn't be forced. I don't want to force this on the chief. I want her to think it's a good idea or not, and we'll go forward with that. But we use it as a really, really important management tool for us, and it helps us kind of get down into the nitty-gritty about what's working with our different departments and what's not. And there's always some really good information that comes out of it. There's also a written section, which you don't see there at the end. And on our last one with 2,300 team members, we had 18,000 comments.
Really?
So that's where you really learn, right? I mean, not only the statistical information, but you learn what's going on in the comments. So people look forward to it every year, and they can talk about the good, bad, and that's really important for us as leaders, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like a report card on the leaders as well, who's running, you know, the business. And with that, at some point, I think when you look at the chief's action plan or performance review over time, this could be a very, very useful tool when you say matrix, or how do we measure our effectiveness.
Sure.
And I think it's, you know, I mean, it's up to chief, our chief here, but I think it's a good thing to do, but I think the timing is really important, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel like we're forcing the whole, you know, police department to do this. To make the data actionable, useful, you have to feel that the leadership communication and earning the trust and mutual respect, you've got to get somewhere in the organization. Then you can, I think my feeling is, otherwise it will be really a waste of time and exercise. Because they're going to say, like, you're new, you know, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are you going to do with the information you collect? And what's really important is you've got to be ready to take actions with the feedback. If they just give you feedback and nothing happens, then forget about doing it the second time. They're just wasting my time. So you've got to have an action plan following. That takes resource, time, and energy. And that's why I'm saying, you know, the timing of this is really important. You do it, if I were you, where I'm comfortable that the organization is going to respond to this. You need an organization, the people in it are really highly engaged because they care. They care about what's going on. They care about their work and all of that. And you're the only one, and your team, management team, will know when is the best time to do it.
Well, I guess the second question is, this is great, Jared, thank you so much. So the second question is then, is that, to pick up on what Commissioner Levinson said before about what's the best way for us to get information, is whether we're now picturing a survey is something that HPD should try again, even though it hasn't really been successful in the past, or whether it's the police commission that actually wants to do a survey. And certainly we don't want to, as everyone said, force anything, or you know, we would like to have it be approved and in a collaborative spirit. But is it our survey, or is it the HPD survey? And are we using it to evaluate the chief of police and to assist with the, as a board does, with the to help the CEO with the running of the company? Or are we suggesting to the chief, you know, you really should do this? And that's where I'm a little fuzzy right now. The original concept was that the police commission would do it. We're not married to that, and maybe we need some more time to think about it, but it's a little fuzzy right now whose survey it is. Yeah?
I forgot about that part. Well, before it was police commission driving it because you weren't getting the information.
Right.
You needed.
Right.
Yeah, it was
I think we're
on,
in a different place
It was
now.
based on the former chief.
Right. But I think to make this useful, so it's not just exercise.
Right.
Personally, and I don't know about whether this will meet with the charter, the approval of all that. If I were the chief, I really want to be the one that's driving it and be out there doing town hall or encourage employees to, our officer, to do this. It has to be a top down, bottom up kind of collaborative exercise. Because if we just do this to get feedback, but no actions to follow up with the feedback, the police commission also will lose a lot of trust with the officers, I think. If I take time to do this, I expect something to happen. So what are you gonna do with the information? And usually that's the most important part, right, Jerry?
Well said.
What are we gonna
Yeah.
do to correct what is not working?
It's
But that's not
action-oriented.
our job, because we're the board, we don't operate, right?
Well, it is our
Yeah,
job
I
to
can
ask
do
the,
both.
ask the chief,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
The other thing
Oh,
that's really
okay.
important, we really didn't discuss this, but confidential. It's got to be
Yes.
Yeah.
confidential. It's done by an outside company. It has nothing to do
They
with you.
feel safe.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
putting it out, and that's got to be, and the first one is the most difficult, because through the years, what you do is you celebrate your victories and your improvements from the information you get from it. The first one is the most difficult to do.
In terms of getting
So-
responses, you mean, or in terms of? what do you
Yeah,
mean?
in form, in that
Getting
people don't
response,
trust you,
yeah.
The first time, all the time,
You
that-
really
that
have to-
through the years, it gets easier and better to,
Yeah.
better information that you can get.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
doesn't that speak to the need for the police commission to do the survey as opposed to the police
It could,
department?
I think we should think about that too. Maybe the chief has some input on that. Do you think it would be better from you or the commission?
I think it's going to be a low response either
Mhm.
way, but I think you'd get a better response if it came from me.
If it came from you?
Yeah, because they know me and they know, our team, whether they like us or don't like us, whatever. But right now, they don't really know you folks, and they would think, well, so what? What are they going to do about it? Because they can say, okay, we answered this, but is anything going to happen? And you're absolutely correct. So I mean, because we see it all the time. When they ask us a question, when I go to the chief's review, if I don't follow up with them or try and get something done, something as simple as, hey, we need a laser class. And so if you don't get them a laser class going, they're like, well, why did I even bother ask the question? And so, I mean, you could give it, whatever their answers are, but they would say if it didn't happen, it's because of you guys, not because of me. So I would think that it would, and I mean, not that I want to take on the work, or but if you're asking me, which way would be more effective? It would be more effective if it came from us.
I would agree with that, because you're the one that's going to change the inside of the operation. It's not going to be us.
Yeah.
We don't do that. That's
Correct.
not what we're here for. It's up to you to do it.
Yeah.
So.
That's a management tool.
Right.
We don't
All right,
operate or manage.
So
Easy ones.
have we decided to let the chief do it, or what's
We
the?
can think about, I mean,
Well,
what-
I
what
think-
can-
Because
I'm-
as Commissioner Sheehan said earlier, it was originally the
Yeah, I know,
commission
but there was
based
a reason
on,
why,
on a reason.
Right.
I still like the idea, because then it helps us do an honest evaluation of the, well, not honest, but at least some evaluation, assist us in doing evaluation of the chief.
Sure, I mean, given the mindset that we had that prompted the idea of a survey of the rank and file, I think we're in a different place now. And so,
and you have different questions.
then it was almost given that it had to be the
Forcing
commission.
it.
Right,
Now it's not a given.
good point, good point.
We want to make the data meaningful and
And she's-
relevant to them.
And she's going to create the change from this
Yeah.
survey as the years go by.
Because you're leading change, where change is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're
Okay, so-
our relationship with the chief is no longer the same as what it was before,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so are we kind of changing course here and
That's what
have Commissioner Gibson and Chang work with the chief on kind of doing something that we both can use? Maybe,
Yeah,
you know?
we'll
You
put
wanna-
our heads
you guys-
together, we'll come back, report to the.
We're not going to have a pig,
to
are
the
we?
commission.
No.
No.
No,
Pig.
Oh, no, I don't want to be the pig.
I don't want to be a pig.
We're just
Okay,
collaborating,
yeah,
working.
why, just,
No.
it's just,
Yeah.
chief, there's nothing wrong,
Yeah,
talk to Commissioner Gibson and Chang.
Right, and
different
I mean,
separately, so-
everything, we're up for discussion,
Yeah.
how it's going to be done, the the pluses and minuses and all like that. So, you know, and you know, so obviously, I think it's something that we can look into.
Okay, well, very good.
And
So
when
how-
is important too? Is
Right.
it next year, or is it 6 months from now?
Yeah,
Or, you know,
exactly,
that's-
exactly.
yeah,
And,
it may not
and
be
is it
appropriate.
the whole department, or should we just do like, you know, one
Tester.
division at a time?
Test
You
it,
know,
yeah.
that don't
Good
take
tester.
off, bite off too much more than we can
Yeah.
chew,
Yeah,
and you
We'll
know.
brainstorm
Okay.
together, we'll
Yeah.
work
Let
together.
us know.
The three of us, we will.
Yeah.
Maybe we can report back,
Yeah.
not January 3rd or whatever, the following week.
Well, just kind of
Yeah.
keep us up to date on
Keep you
where
up
it
to date.
is.
Okay, later on. I
Yeah,
think
just Commissioner Gibson can
not January 3rd.
let us know at the
following-
next meeting where we
Okay.
are, you know, on the whole.
That'd be
the
great.
whole
Chair,
issue.
this is really good.
Yeah.
Mr.
And,
Chair, can I suggest to dissolve the
Oh, we have to vote to dissolve.
I
Yes.
thought, I thought
Okay.
we
take
did.
action?
Okay.
Didn't we do that last?
No, we have to dissolve the
Okay.
original pig. So
All right.
anyway, first, take a motion to dissolve the pig on the survey.
So moved.
So Commissioner Levinson moved, Commissioner Chang second, okay. Discussion? Just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Levinson and Sheehan for taking on that job. And I know, I know.
Well, I think the relief of
Yeah.
Commissioner Sheehan on that is palpable. I think I can feel it and she can feel it.
Yeah, and
Thank
thank
you, guys.
and thank Commissioner Gibson and Chang for taking
this
on
is
that
good,
task.
fine.
So anyway, motion's been made in second. No further discussion. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, thank you. And Commissioner Levinson and Sheehan, thanks you all too.
So I do think we need a motion to table action on the proposed survey by the police commission in light of the the proposal that HPD conduct its own internal survey. It's kind of floating out there.
I don't think we need to do that since we dissolved the pig, and the pig was part of the.
We did distribute a sample at the last meeting. We distributed the proposed
Yes, we did.
survey,
Mhm.
and so I just wanted the record to be clear that we're not going forward with that
Yeah,
survey.
yeah.
We're tabling that
Yeah,
survey. Is that part of the dissolve?
That's part of the pig
All right,
dissolve.
dissolve, yeah.
Whatever is associated with the
The
pig
pig
is gone as
gone,
far as I'm
okay.
concerned. Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't see no complaints from court counsel. So we're good.
You're fine with that?
Okay, we have three considerations for request for legal counsel. It was 4A, Officer Kendall Wong, 4B, Sergeant Zane Hamrick, and D, Officer Harry Burt. Everybody has it before them, so do we need a motion?
What's on
to
the
accept?
table? I don't understand what's on the table at the moment.
On the table, does everybody have the
Yes.
request? Yeah, so what's on the table is for approval for the
I think that's premature. We all know Section 52D8 gives police officers who are sued for acts done in the performance of their duty as police officers the right to request legal representation at city county expense. Section 9 vests in the commission the sole authority to pass on the request, make the determination as to whether the request will be granted or not. The Section 9 also requires the commission to request input from corporation counsel. Section 9 also empowers the Office of the Corporation Counsel to decline to make to give any input at all. The takeaway from all of that for present purposes being that this is our decision, and so the question that is in my mind at the moment is whether we're really in a position to take action based solely on the memoranda submitted to us by the Department of the Corporation Counsel. To my knowledge, we have not even been given access to the complaints in these matters. And to me, the allegations of the complaint basically is the sum total of the record that we need on the basis of which we make the determination. And so, and I'm not willing to accept the characterization of the complaints, such as they are in the memoranda, at face value, particularly when it's often difficult to separate out what representations appearing in the memoranda come from allegations in the complaint on the one hand, or from some other source on the other, which in my view would be immaterial. So I need to see the complaints. After I see the complaints, I know that I'll be in a position to pass on the, or make the determination for myself as to whether the request should be granted or not. But it may have been past practice, and I believe it has been, for the Commission to take action without anything further when Corp Counsel has recommended granting the request. But I no longer feel comfortable doing that for various reasons. I would hope in the future that as an attachment to these memoranda from Corp Counsel, when they are circulated to us, would be a copy of the complaint that the memoranda is addressing. And then I think we would be in a position to do it. But I'd like to defer taking action on these matters until after the complaints in each case have been distributed to the Commission.
If I may, I agree with Commissioner Levinson. I was very troubled by the idea that Corp Counsel would ask us to make a decision without providing us with copies of the complaints. I am additionally troubled by indications in the memo that was provided that we're getting an opinion from an attorney with an apparent conflict of interest, in terms of an attorney who thinks that he or she can wear two hats, one as our advisor and then two as an advocate in the very same conflict. I want some information about that from Corp Counsel as far as whether how that is set, how do they set it up to avoid a conflict of interest, because I think there is one. And three, I had an objection to the memo, well, to the legal analysis part of the memo, which made me want to see the complaint for myself all the more, where I felt that Corp Counsel had really was really disingenuous in their statement of the law. They try to suggest on page 3 that they're the ones who should make the determination as far as whether a matter relates to official powers and duties, citing to RCH section 5-203, when in fact the statute itself, which trumps any kind of regulation, vests in the Commission the sole authority to determine the request. I thought it was a very disingenuous and frankly inaccurate memo, so I am not prepared to vote. I don't have the facts with which to vote on the request. They haven't been provided. Commissioner
Sheehan raises other issues that were in my mind that I didn't think were immediately germane, but since we're airing some of them, one, it is now my opinion that with respect to these memoranda that are mandated by statute, there is no attorney-client relationship between the Commission and Corp Counsel. And that being the case, if true, it is wholly inappropriate for Corp Counsel to couch or characterize these memoranda as confidential and privileged attorney-client communication with an admonition, do not circulate. That bothers me. It bothers me that Corp Counsel persists in basing its recommendation on the identical analysis that it has in the past, which we have discussed ad nauseum, and in various critical respects, I think is simply breathtakingly wrong. But those are issues that we can deal with later. What I need right now are copies of the complaint so that I can make my own determination, which is what the statute requires of us as to whether these requests should be granted or denied.
So you're talking about the Henderson case, the issue on...
I'm talking about all
11,
sorts of things, including the fact that Corp Counsel's sole basis for linking the idea of acts done in the performance of duty as a police officer with acts done within the course and scope of employment on what it holds out as a definition from Ballantyne's legal dictionary. One, it is not a definition contained in the edition of Ballantyne's legal dictionary that Corp Counsel has been citing to for years. Secondly, that edition no longer exists. I tried to buy it from LexisNexis, which is the publisher of that dictionary, and I got an email in response advising me that Ballantyne's Law Dictionary is a dormant publication and no product available or planned for the near future. The only copy of Ballantyne's Law Dictionary that I could get my hands on was through one available through Amazon, a part of a classic reprint series published by, quote, forgotten books, unquote. In other words, Ballantyne's Law Dictionary is garbage, and Corp Counsel's entire analysis is grounded in this garbage.
Okay, so what we have here is the request for granting those three, but any other comments from anybody else? No, there's three for now. There's the fourth. Mr. Lawrence will explain the fourth.
Okay.
Any other comments on that issue?
No, I would just say a Reader's Digest edition like we're getting is probably, I would agree that is not enough to decide these, and I think it would be appropriate to have the other side as well.
Any other comments?
I agree.
Okay, so
Defer.
yeah, why don't we defer that for the lack of support on it? And then I guess we'll pass that on to Corp Counsel on the request for the
complaints.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. On the fourth one.
On 4C, based on the information available, Corporation Counsel has indicated does not appear to be any pending legal action related to Officer Solomon. So I'm going to reach out to Officer Solomon to get more information, and if there is no legal action at this time, see if Officer Solomon wants to just withdraw the request.
Okay. All right.
Or let me just ask a question. So, does FC-DA 17-1-2689 not exist? Did you do a Huike search?
Corp Counsel has looked into this, and they said it's been terminated or closed or something along those lines.
So that's why they didn't present anything. Okay. Moving on to the executive officer's report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As of December 20th, number of cases for 2017 is 74, same as the last meeting. December appears to be a very slow month. Everyone's in a holiday spirit. We have 0 complaints this month. And this is compared
but we have 2 for next meeting.
No, that's a part of the 74.
Oh, that's part of 74. Okay.
Don't watch years.
And this is compared to 85 at the same time last year. Last time we had 10 pending. We're giving you 2 today, so there are 8 pending.
Okay. All right.
And as far as the office report, I just received the preliminary proposal from Olelo. I need to get some technical information resolved and back to them, and then I think at the next meeting I'll be able to present to the commission a little more information on Olelo coverage.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of the
I do have
Oh.
one question. Olelo has asked if the commissioners would require closed captioning on any coverage that they provide, and I don't know what
It's a matter
they ask. Right?
Is it an ADA issue? You might have to look into that as a requirement.
If it's a requirement, is it? I mean, they would say
whatever,
just do
whatever
it.
I know,
Yeah.
being in charge of the virtual unit, whenever we submit anything to them,
Yeah.
or if we post to YouTube, we're required.
I'll just
by
tell
the-
them yes.
Okay.
Because it's a public, it's ADA.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioner Gibson,
Yes,
you gotta read that whole thing.
executive session. Read this whole thing? Okay, I'd like to move into executive session and, okay, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there after that long
The
paragraph.
following agenda items will be reviewed in executive session pursuant to HRS 92.5A, subsections 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8, to consider the hire, evaluation, dismissal, or discipline of an officer or employee or of charges brought against the officer or employee, where consideration of matters affecting privacy will be involved, to consult with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities, to investigate proceedings regarding criminal misconduct, to consider sensitive matters related to public safety or security, to deliberate or make a decision upon a matter that requires the consideration of information that must be confidential pursuant to state or federal law or a court order.
Make a motion.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second?
Mid-morning and section, any discussion? All right, hearing none, we're in executive session and we'll take a short recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.